Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishna Kesubos, Parak Beis, Chapter 2, Mishnah 9, Mishnah Test, Mishnah 9. Okay, now this case of the Mishnah is very specific in the sense that we have discussed previously the status of a woman who is kidnapped. She's taken captive, and there is a law that such a woman, she becomes invalidated to Kohanim because of the fact that we assume that she was violated while she was in captivity. Now, we don't know that for sure. But because of that strong consideration, the Chachamim said, any woman in that situation, it becomes invalidated to a Kohen because a woman will become, even if she is violated against her will, she will become invalidated to a Kohen. And that applies to a single woman regarding marrying a Kohen in the future. A woman married to a Kohen cannot remain married to the Kohen. And we had discussions before about what if is there a possibility for her to claim that nothing happened? Okay, but the starting point is that we assume something did happen, and she is disqualified from marrying a Kohen or to remain married to a Kohen. Now, our Mishnah is discussing the following. She was imprisoned by Goyim. She was imprisoned. She wasn't kidnapped, she was imprisoned. And now the question is, what happened while she was imprisoned? So the Mishnah says, Al Yedei Mammon Mataras Labaila. If the reason they imprisoned her was for money, because she owed money to them and she didn't pay it, and that's why she was imprisoned, Mutaras Labaila, she is then permitted to her husband. Al Yedei Nefashes, but she was imprisoned because she committed some kind of capital offense in their regard, and they're going to execute her, then, and she gets out of it, then Asura Labaila, she is forbidden to her husband. Now, here's the situation. This woman, again, she is not being kidnapped. She's imprisoned. And she's being imprisoned for one of possible two reasons. Either because she owes money, and she owes money to these people, or to these Goyim, and therefore they imprisoned her for it, or she actually committed some kind of a crime that they would therefore execute her for her, that and imprisoned her before they execute her. So the question is, what happens while she was imprisoned? So the Mishnah says like this: if they imprisoned her for monetary reasons, because she owed money, then when she gets out, she is permitted to her husband. Now the husband we're talking about here is the Kohen husband, because the issue here is, was she violated? If she's not married to a Kohen, even if she's married to a Levi, and she's violated, she can remain married to the Kohen or to the Levi. I'm sorry, if she can marry to the non-Kohen. If she was violated, if she's married to the Kohen, she was violated, she's going to be forbidden. The Mishnah is saying here is that if she was imprisoned for monetary reasons, then when she gets out, she is permitted to her husband, even if he was a Kohen. We assume that she was not violated. Why do we assume she's not violated? So the Bartanura says that we're dealing here with a specific situation. Somehow or another, these Goyim, these non-Jews, have the power and the ability to imprison her for doing something wrong in their laws, so to speak. But we're talking about a situation in Eretz Yisrael where these non-Jews are still under the control, under the rule of the Jews. So they are still kind of imprisoning her. They have the ability to imprison her. But at the end of the day, they are still submissive. They are still under the rule of the Jews. Therefore, the explanation here is that if they violate her and the Jews find out, they're not going to get the money, because they have the control to basically punish them, that they're not going to get their money if they violated her. If they don't violate her, then my understanding is that somehow or another the Jewish government is going to try to help out and is going to get her out. But if they violate her, they're not the Jewish government, who is in control of these people, to be able to make differences. They're not going to let them get their money back. And therefore, the assumption is that she was not violated in that situation, because they're afraid to lose their money. Their fear to lose their money is going to hold them back from violating her. And therefore, based on that, when she gets out, she can be permitted to her husband, even if he's a Kayan. But if, let's say, the case is that we're talking about these non-Jews are not under the control of the Jews, then already she would be forbidden to go back to her husband if he's a Kayin, because of the fact that we're concerned that she was violated, and they're not afraid to violate her. It's not going to hurt them. They're not going to lose out on their money. They're in control of the situation. So therefore, in that situation, we have to be concerned that they violated her. And therefore, if she's married to a Yisrael, she can still stay married to him. But if she's married to a Kohen, she's going to be forbidden. So that's the first part of the Mishnah when it says, if she was in prison for money, she's permitted to her husband, even if he's a Kohen. Now, the next part, al yedei nefashis. If, let's say, they imprisoned her because they were planning on executing her, then asir l'bayla, she's forbidden to her husband, even if the husband is a Yisrael. In that situation where she was imprisoned and she was going to be executed, we were actually concerned that she willingly cohabited with her jailers in order to save her life. And therefore, even if she was married to a non-Yisrael, to a non-Kohen, we are concerned that she willingly cohabited with these non-Jews in order to save her life. And therefore, that's called a willing act, and it's an act of adultery. She's permitted to her husband. So in the case of nefashos, in the case of money, the concern would be, for money, she's not going to be willing. For money, she's not going to willingly cohabit with the jailers. That's not going to happen there. Question is, she violated. So we say, for money, they want to lose their money, they're not going to violate her. But in a situation where she's jailed because she wants to say her life's in danger, she's jailed to be executed. There, we're afraid that she actually willingly cohabited with them in order to save her life. And therefore, that's called willing. And in that situation, she would be forbidden to her husband. That's the first half of the Mishnah. Next case. Now, again, the first case was she was jailed. The next case is Ir Shekavasha Karkum, a city that was conquered by an army. Okay, a non-Jewish army conquered the city. And that in that situation, they can do anything they want. All kohanos means any woman married to a Kohen that is found within that city is now psules. They are now disqualified from marrying a Kohen. We have to assume that something happened to them. They were violated. If they're violated, they are forbidden to their husbands or a Kohanim. They're not. If the husband is not a Kohen, then it's not. Then they can still stay married. But if the husband is a Kohen, now they became violated, and they're forbidden to marry their husband as a Kohen. Now here the Bartanura tells us an interesting qualification. And again, this all has to do with the fact, as we had previously, as we're about to see the next halacha, that this whole law about assuming, I mean, we don't know exactly what happened, but we make an assumption. That's a rabbinic law. It's a rabbinic law to say we have to assume, and therefore she can't marry a Kohen. But because of that, there are certain leniencies that are available. And one of those leniencies are like this. The Bartanura brings this down from the Gemara. If, let's say, after the city was conquered, there is at least one place, just even one place for a woman to hide, to be able to say, I hid myself so that they couldn't do anything to me. If there's even one place to do so, any woman can claim she did it, and she would be able to stay married to her husband as a Kohen. Because that meaning once there is the possibility for her to actually save herself from being violated, then we say that let me just read this right. Okay, she's able to go ahead and say that she hit herself. That would be a way to remain permitted to her husband as a Kohen. And then a step further, says the Bartanura, would be that if, let's say, she says, I didn't hide, but nothing happened to me. So then we have that concept called migu, that since she could have claimed, if she was lying, she could have claimed, I hid. And when she would have said that, she would have been, no question, she would have been permitted to her husband. Now when she makes the more questionable claim that I didn't hide, but nothing happened to me, she has the migu, she has that power to say, because she could have said the better lie, and the lie would have gotten her exactly where she wants to be, permitted to her husband. When she doesn't do so, it's a proof that what she's claiming now, that she didn't hide but she wasn't violated, is also believed. Now, Mishnah continues. If let's say there are witnesses that nothing happened to her, even if it's a slave or a maidservant, meaning non-Jewish slave or non-Jewish maidservant, who typically cannot be witnesses, if they are the ones who say nothing happened to her, she's believed. We have the same thing when a woman is taken captive. In these kinds of cases, we allow any witness. And if we're saying that these witnesses can work, the slave, the maidservant, and Eid Echad, one witness, could also work. But a person is not believed about themselves. If she just says, nothing happened to me, we can't believe her. We mentioned before, when she had a migu, it's a different story. But if, let's say, in a situation where that migu does not exist, but she says, anyway, meaning there's no place to hide, but she says, nothing happened to me, she will not be believed. Reb Zechariah ben Akatzev made the following statement. He was a Kohen. And he had a wife. And he was in Yerushalayim when Yerushalayim was conquered by the Romans. The Romans took control of Yerushalayim. So the question was, can he stay married to his wife? Because this is the example we just had of a city taken over by a non-Jewish army. That there we say that the women are invalidated. Now in this case, he wanted to claim, he made the following claim. Hamo'ena zeh. That's an expression that he says, I swear by the Beis HaMikdash. Her hand did not leave mine from the time that the non-Jews entered Yerushalayim until they left. She never left my side. She was always with me. He's trying to say, and therefore she's permitted. Amruloi, they said to him, a person cannot meyed on himself. Now in this case, the husband is not testifying about himself. He's testifying about his wife. But as they explained down here in the notes, there's a concept of ishtoi kagufai. A man's wife is considered like him himself. And therefore, the same way that the woman couldn't testify about herself, he can't testify about her either, because he and her are like one. And therefore, in this case, even though he swore to the fact that she never left his side, nonetheless, he's not believed, just like the woman's not believed about herself, the husband of the woman is not believed, and therefore, according to rabbinic law, she was not allowed to stay married to him. Okay, so we began this next chapter about the laws of Rechilas, about the fact that about all the different, that doesn't make a difference who the one is telling you the Rechilas is, who the one the Rechilas is about, it's going to be forbidden. V'yesh anashim shenachshalim bazeh. So here the Chofetz Chaim goes into a scenario where people stumble. People are too quick in this kind of case. Somebody sees two young boys going at it. They're beating each other up. So he goes and tells the father of one of them, that kid just beat up your kid. Okay? Now, what did that person just do? He spoke Rechilas, right? Because he basically was saying to the father, you were harmed. Somebody did something against you, which was that he beat up your son. Lots of big problems can follow from that. What does the father do? The father of the son who got beaten up, he goes, what does he do? He goes and gives a patch to the kid who beat up his kid. Oh, and then it becomes a fight between the fathers after he hits his kid. This can be very common to happen in the Beis Medrash. The kids are outside, they're fighting, and somebody goes telling them, and and the other kid goes out, and the other father goes out and hits the kid. Turns to a whole problem. The person who now told the father what happened, the sins that he has committed, he says there's too many to count. Now, certainly, if let's say, if you don't even know who was right in this case about the fight, For sure, going up to the father would be unquestionably forbidden. But even if he knows which one is right, meaning he knows that the kid got beaten up, he was the victim. The one doing the beating was wrong. Nonetheless, you're not allowed to go ahead and tell the other's father. Unless all the conditions are met when it's permissible to do so. But for the fact that people are quick to go in and react and see what happens and tell the father what happened, that is wrong to do. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
There was one case with